Stanley County Commissioners regular meeting, October 7, 2024, to order. And I do thank you for attending. And if anyone is on watching YouTube and watching this meeting, I appreciate their attendance. At this time, I would like to have an invocation. So I ask you if you would like to please bow with me. Heavenly Father, we do come to you with thankful hearts for the beauty that we had today in Stanley County. Not everyone is as fortunate as we are, and our thoughts and prayers and minds go out to those that are in western North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida, Georgia, that have been affected by the storm that we've had, which is just mind-blowing. We thank you for the volunteers that have gone to help our neighbors. They are our neighbors. And we pray that you would give them some brightness for their future. And we pray for the citizens that are facing the storm that's in the Gulf of Mexico. And we just ask that people would be safe. Just guide and direct us as we do your business here in Stanley County. In Christ's name I pray. Amen. If you would join me with the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the agenda has been presented to the commissioners, and I think there's going to be one change that I would ask for. We had, let's see, item number 3, Gateway of Hope. It was going to be a homeless outreach update, and my understanding is that Paul Wilkins, who is the executive director, may be in the hospital with some blood clots in his legs, I think, or he had blood clot issues. So they will not be here tonight. So I ask that you remove that from your agenda as item 3 and move items 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 up 1, if that makes sense. So I need a motion for approval.
Mr. Chairman, I make that motion that the agenda be approved as changed.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Okay, public comments. It's the very first thing we have. And I know there's, looks like 4 people who have signed up for item number 7, but I'm going to ask that you all go ahead and speak now, and I'll call you in order that have signed. And Lanny Haithcock of Oakboro, please come forward and tell us what's on your mind.
Well, I'm Lanny Haithcock. I live in Oakboro. I'm actually on the town council. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to each and every one of y'all. And as the agenda states there, I mean, it moved up to number 6, is the contract between Stanley County Sheriff's Department and Oakboro. No town needs to face what we have faced. And, you know, it's not something nobody wants to have to face and everything. And we've been fortunate that Sheriff Crisco stepped up and offered us a supplemental contract to help fill the voids. And he's been doing that since May. And in speaking with him and all, he did tell us that other towns here in the county have a contract with them to do the policing for their towns. And that sounded, you know, like a good option for us, being the shape that we're in right now. I'm not telling you We want to build the police department back, but that's going to take some time. It's not going to be something that can be done overnight, and you want to get the right people in there. We want to have as good or better than what we had. And approving a contract with the county sheriff's department would afford us that time to pick the correct people to run that department. I'm not saying that some of the ones that were there wouldn't come back. I'm not saying they wasn't the right people, but they chose to take another path at this time. And I would just encourage each and every one of y'all to deeply consider that contract when it comes up before y'all. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I believe it is, and I may be wrong here, Laura Scott. If I can't,
Right.
is it Laura S?
It's Laura Scott.
Okay, thank you.
So good evening, Chairman. I live in Oakboro. I'm sure all of you have seen my glorious emails that I have sent you over the past couple of days. While I agree partially with one thing Lanny said, we do need time to build back our PD. I agree. But 5 years, we don't need that much time. We probably just need to hire a couple of people that we've had previously, and then we need to get our town administrator on board to start hiring some people, because I know firsthand that she has the resume and the application of Will Armstrong, who is on Live PD. He has applied for the positions, and yet nobody has interviewed him. That's just one candidate. So if she's not, how do we know it's going to take 5 years to build our PD back if the person in charge, so to speak, is not even doing their job and hiring people to come in? She's not even picking up the phone to interview people. I mean, this is the kind of thing. And here we are, we faced a crime spree, for lack of better terms, October 1st, October 2nd. I mean, we had 2 guns stolen, 3 lawnmowers stolen, 2 of which were recovered, 2 car thefts, I mean, an Amazon package. We have never had that kind of crime spree, so to speak, go on in Oakboro. The last time a car was stolen was 2019. So if the sheriffs were going to step up and do their job, where were they during this crime spree? And yet they want us to pay them $500,000 to $700,000 plus in 5 years to do a job. Where were they when the agreement wasn't even in place? Where were they? I can tell you right now that I lived off of Main Street, not far from town. I drive Main Street every day, multiple times a day. My child is a student at Oakboro STEM. You know what? I went through town today. Wasn't no sheriff, no PD. Prior to the sheriffs coming in, when I would drive through Main Street, I would see PD everywhere. Several PD here, a couple of PD here. There would be monitoring the school traffic, school zones. Point is, their presence was there. Preventative measures were being taken. Proactivity was being taken to keep our town safe. Where is that same caliber of activity when it comes to our sheriff's department? This is why I'm 1,000% against this contract being signed. They are stretched thin. I'm not saying the sheriffs aren't doing their job. Everybody's stretched thin. I get it. But we need to build back our PD. And not just that, when it comes to taxes, we're paying for a service that we're not receiving. So is the city going to get rid of the police tax because we don't have a PD? I mean, this is all stuff that we have to consider, and nobody's willing to step up to the plate and say, no, this is not what's in the best interest of Oakboro, but I am. And I'm sure I'm getting some ugly eyes behind me, and I don't even care. This is not okay. I moved to Oakboro because the crime rate was so low. If you Google the crime rate, we're looking at less than 1% of a crime rate. Well, good God, we just had 6 crimes happen in a week, 2 days, 3 days. That's not okay. And then it just trickles down. They want to bring businesses in. They want to bring homes in. That's fine and dandy. But where's the protection going to come from? We can't expect the sheriffs to do it. These businesses are not going to come in when they're not protected. Bob Shuey, I went and spoke to him personally. He wants to build a 67-foot, 1,000-square-foot warehouse to broaden his business. Guess what? He's not doing it because his business got robbed. So why open himself up to a more sitting duck, so to speak. This is the kind of thing we have to look at. And he's probably one of the biggest taxpayers in Oakboro. Second to Food Line, maybe they're right there together. I don't know. But I'm saying this is stuff we have to consider. Are we going to sit here and be like, oh, let's just sign the contract for 5 years and then we have all this crap go on? No, that's not okay with me. That ordeal that happened with the lawnmower shop, that was near my kid's school. My child is a student at Oakboro STEM. We don't know what these people are doing. Then you got the kid that went and robbed the tractor store. He's walking around with 2 stolen guns. So now we got 2 stolen guns running around the streets of who knows where. That's not okay. I'm a firearm owner. It's something I take serious. And now we got all this going on. And I'm a mother of 4 daughters. I live in a neighborhood. Children are out at the bus stops. We all know what happens. We've seen we've seen shootings, we've seen school shootings, we've seen all this stuff. Where is our protection? Where is our protection? Because the sheriffs failed us. They failed. And I'm not apologizing for it. I stand on business. And I'm sure y'all have all seen my emails. I have transcripts of every call that was dispatched this week. I actually got it from Kyle, Director of 911 Communications. Thank you. He was very helpful, and I appreciate his diligence. But I'm just saying, I went through all of this, and I got to the bottom of it. We don't need to, I'm not saying don't get involved. We don't need the county getting involved, because now what we need to do is we need to take City Hall and we need to clean it from the inside out. And I know exactly where to start, but unfortunately, we're going to have to wait till election. Thank you for your time. I hope you do not approve that contract by no means of the imagination. Thank you.
Thank you. Tate Daniels.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Tate Daniels. I'm the mayor of the town of New London. First thing I need to say is, I'm not and never have been a resident of Oakboro. But what I do have is I got at least 20 years of experience having supplemental contracts with the sheriff's office in New London, and I know what they do. Now, I got me some notes here. Don't think it's long, but when you get old, you have to wear your glasses and look at your notes. But we've had this contract, I don't even know how many years we've had. We had it way before Jeff was there, and we've had it since Jeff's been there. We haven't skipped a year in at least 20 years. What we do is, he is in complete control. It's turned over completely to Jeff. He assigns, we have a North Stanley deputy that's not just a deputy, he's one rank up, and he looks after everything in New London. And he assigns the officers. They do this on their time off, but they furnish the car, the insurance, everything. Jeff knows to the dollar what it costs. And what New London does is we allot so much money in our budget. They divide that by 12, and that's how much money we spend every month on supplemental protection. Town of New London cannot afford a police department. It's just, we can't do it. So we do this with the sheriff's office, and we are completely satisfied with what they do. Anytime I call Jeff, if he doesn't answer the phone right off, within 10 minutes he calls me back. And every time I call him, he takes care of any issues we have immediately. So I have no problem with any of that. Also, the town of New London furnishes Stanley County, our old town hall, to use as a North Stanley supplemental. It's the North Stanley Sheriff's Office, and we give it to the county for free. All y'all have to do is pay the utilities. It puts a larger presence in northern Stanley County, not just for New London, but for Richfield, the whole northern end of the county. It gives us a good presence, and we furnish that for free, and we appreciate y'all letting them use that. Last thing I'm going to say is overall that we're 100% pleased with what Jeff Crisco is doing for the town of New London with our supplemental. The cost is so prohibitive, and if you had to start from scratch, I mean, we'd have to put Oh, I couldn't tell you, over $1 million into it to get it going, because we have nothing. We have no equipment. County is generous enough to let the sheriff's department do this and use their equipment. You furnish the insurance, you furnish everything, but we know what it costs up front, exactly what it's gonna cost us, and if we needed 2 officers, we know how much money it would take to supply them for the whole year. I'm not gonna speak for Richfield, but I know at one time Richfield had a full-time deputy, to do it up there, and they knew exactly what their cost was, and it worked out good. And Oakboro, I really can't speak about Oakboro. I know they're a lot bigger town. I don't know how many deputies you're talking about that would have to do that, but it would take quite a few. And, and there's a lot of cost involved. And, but I know that the Stanley County Sheriff's Office, for us, they do all our police work, and they're there just, when you call them, they're there. We don't have any problems with them, and I just wanted to let y'all know that. I think that, if Oakboro wants to do this, I think y'all ought to go along with them, because it'd be a good thing till they can get their police department built, because you can't build one overnight. When the whole thing is gone, it's gonna take more than a year or two to build it back, because you gotta have the right people, and it takes time. So, and I appreciate your time.
Ian? And I didn't pronounce your last name because I'm not sure how you pronounce it.
It's Folk.
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 Okay, thank you.
Yes, I would like to start out by saying that I agree with Tate, and everything that he has said is the truth and how I experience it. I have something a little different that I had prepared. Commissioners of Stanley County, as the mayor of Richfield, I can personally attest to the reliability and high quality of Sheriff Crisco's services. Under his leadership, our community has experienced a consistent level of safety and peace of mind, thanks to his dedicated deputies who are a true staple of our town. Their professionalism, responsiveness, and deep connection to our residents have made a significant positive impact on Richfield. Whether Oakboro's contract with Sheriff Crisco is temporary or permanent, it would undoubtedly be a great decision for the citizens of Oakboro. Not only will they benefit from his team's high standard of protection and community engagement, but his partnership would also allow him to expand his resources to better protect Oakboro. This collaboration will provide an even stronger safety network for the region. Thank you.
Thank you. Those are the only citizens that signed up to speak, but I'm going to give anyone else the opportunity to come forward and speak about the agreement between the Sheriff's Department and Oakboro. At this time, if there's anyone else that would like to speak for or against, please come forward. Mayor,
Thank you.
please state your name and
My name is Chris Honeycutt, the mayor, town of Oakboro. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you tonight. I've driven over 2 hours to get here, and I apologize for not being here sooner to get my name written down there, but I appreciate you. And second, I would like to say, first of all, is what each of you do is a very challenging job, and no one realizes exactly what all goes behind doing what you do. So I thank you for your service to your community, to our county. It's very much appreciated. Also, Sheriff Jeff Crisco has done an outstanding job for our community, not just Stanley County, but for Oakboro specifically. As Commissioner Haythcott said, we have encountered quite a few challenges here recently with our staffing, and there has been opportunity to utilize the county. I hope that we'll one day we can have an Oakboro division, as I know that has worked in many other towns and municipalities, counties. Cabarrus County, I mean, they have I believe it's Harrisburg, Indian Trail. So, I mean, this is not uncommon. But my thought was to first thank, don't see Sheriff Crisco tonight, but to thank him for what he's doing because.
back corner.
Oh, okay. But thank you, Sheriff. I appreciate what you've done for us and what you continue to do. Because our first priority is the safety and security for the town and the citizens of Oakboro. And I feel that we will, if we can maintain this through contract purposes, then that will continue that, and there will be no gap in service to the town. I just wanted to share those thoughts with you. I know there's quite a bit of discussion, but I do believe that that is the direction that we need to go forward, is maintaining that with the Sheriff's Department. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Please step forward, give us your name, where you live, and your comments.
Well, I did not have any idea that I was going to be speaking. My name is Elaine Escher, and I live in Oakboro. I am very much against the Sheriff's Department taking over. We had a great police department. I don't know why we're at the point we're at now. I read over the contract between Oakboro and the Sheriff's Department. It said that the Sheriff's Department would provide us with 1 sergeant, 6 deputies, and a school resource officer. We already had a school resource officer, and we already had 6 police officers still after the major resignation that we had. So we had 6 officers. Why are we getting nothing more, basically? Plus, they are getting a higher rate of pay than our officers got. So in the long run, and I did the figures, in the long run, we are not saving any money. And like Laura said before, you do not see the presence that we had before. I could go down Main Street, there was always an officer out there. They were always by the school. I see nobody. Now, I'm not saying they're not working, but there is something going on here that the residents of Oakboro are not aware of. There is something not right, and we can't figure it out. And you got my letter. I sent it earlier, well, last week, to all of you. And I explained it the best I could. But there is so much more that nobody is talking about. Oakboro needs its police department. We don't need to go with the Sheriff's Department, where we're signing a 5-year contract, and if we want to terminate it, we have to give them a year's notice. Now, to me, that's unreasonable. So there's a lot more that needs to be investigated that people are not aware of. And everything is done in secret. So as residents, we don't know anything. Everything goes in a closed session. So I just ask that you all look at it and think of it as your town. And would you like this happening in your town? And I guess that's really about all. My concern is the money and the fact that this has not been done right. But I guess that's all I want to say. I mean, I could stand here forever. I have a ton of things I could tell you, but it's really not going to make a difference. But why replace something that was working when it's going to cost you the same amount of money? Why not keep what you have and you know has done a great job? That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Don't see anyone, so we are going to move on. And the number 2 item is the Volunteer Ag District Advisory Board appointments. Presenter is Chester Louder, who is the chair of the VAD Advisory Board. Welcome, Chester.
Good evening, and thanks to the commissioners for your support of agriculture in Stanley County. We are indeed honored and glad that we have a strong agricultural base here in the county. We come to you tonight to request the appointment of Curtis Furr, Frank Lee, David Underwood, and Jody Smith for a 3-year term ending in July 31, 2027. And if you've got questions, I'll be happy to try to answer those.
Okay, any questions for Chester? I think you made it pretty clear, Chester.
Well, I found over the years, keep it short, sweet, and simple. Usually you succeed, and, I don't know what your question might be if you had a question, so we'll leave it at that.
Well, the citizens you named are good qualified citizens, and I think, Trent, you have a question?
And we're working now, we've had some transitions in the offices there, so we're working now to get up to speed, because we should have probably had this here before the terms expired. And we're in the process of retooling and re-upping that and getting a new staff up to speed on what to do and how to do it. Yeah, okay. Well, the Volunteer Ag District Board, that usually costs.
I was glad to see Jody Smith's name on there. We
Yes.
go all the way back to kindergarten.
I'd like to say, I really appreciate the service Ronnie Burleson had on there. He's a fine man, and I understand why
He's still a still a strong supporter of agriculture, but with his health conditions and whatnot, and as some of us are getting more and more gray hair, there are going to be some other names to come to this board as time goes along, and we need some new blood and young blood into that areas to help promote agriculture in the county, and if we can provide any information to you down the road, please ask us. Currently, we've probably got about 10,000 acres signed up in the Volunteer Ag District program. We'd like to have more. I mean, there's plenty of opportunity there. With the current economy of crops and the whatnot, we may have more interest in that going forward too, even though it doesn't mean anything as far as money, but it helps keep the agricultural community together as a focal point.
Thank you. Like to seek a motion to reappoint Curtis Furr, Frank Lee, David Underwood, and then appoint Jody Smith for a 3-year term, which will end July 31st, 2027. Do we have a motion for that?
I make a motion, we nominate those that you just discussed.
Okay, we've got a first and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Tell Ronnie Burleson that we really do appreciate his
Will do.
dedication.
Will do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chester. Item number 3 now is the Stanley County Library NCDIT Grant Fund and Personnel Authorization. Presenter is Miss Sarah Hahn.
I decided to start from the side this time. So, good evening, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Yes, I'm still pregnant and still cannot reach. So here we are. I am excited to request board approval of Budget Amendment 2025-29 and the associated project ordinance to appropriate the $200,000 grant award that we were awarded from the NCDIT for our local government digital champion grant. And then also to create the full-time and part-time digital navigator positions for the library.
Anything else?
I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Questions?
Free money and free employees we're very excited about. We definitely think that it is a community need, so we're excited to have the opportunity.
I do have a question.
Sure.
As far as, give us a brief description of what
Yeah.
these employees will be doing.
Great. So digital navigator is a term that is becoming more popular in the library world. It is a person who is designated to sit down and help people with internet capability, devices, things that they're not familiar with, how to fill out job applications online, how to create a portal to pay a utility bill online, help them set up an email address, do community outreach events, and say, pop up at the park, learn about safe online shopping, things like that. So this will not be a librarian position. It will be more of a community liaison. That's why they sort of call it a navigator, to help people navigate the digital landscape and bridge the digital divide between everything online and folks who may not have those skills or those devices and things. So the money goes to the two positions, a full-time person who would be stationed at the Albemarle location, and then a part-time position who would float around between all of our branch locations. And then they would work together on community outreach projects. And then also it would fund data for 29 Wi-Fi hotspots that we already have. They were procured during COVID, but there's never been any data for them. So now it would be 29 Wi-Fi hotspots for those 2 years of the grant agreement.
Other questions?
Sure.
Do you
Speak
have
for
any,
yourself.
do you have any heartburn? I mean, I know that people will have those questions. Okay, so you got a grant, you got 2 years, 2 people. When the grant money runs out, and if there's not 200,000 to go to employees, how do you feel like that will that affect your ability to hire someone for these positions?
So we actually love the fact that it is a temporary position, because it gives us a chance to sort of see how it goes, see what the community needs, and then hopefully at the end of the 2 years, we will have data to decide, is this something we need to continue or not? I will say temporary positions in the library world are very common with grant-funded things. Libraries are not at the top of the budget chain usually, so receiving items, people, positions through grant funding for temporary things is very normal. And I actually already have 2 people who had applied previously for another position who were super qualified for this, but we couldn't say anything about it yet. And so I just said, we have the potential of this. We're looking at what this might be. Is that something you'd be interested in us keeping your application on file for? And they said, oh yeah, definitely. So a lot of the time I feel like 2 years is a good, see how it went, see how the people are doing. And then once it's not grant funded anymore, determine whether it's something we want to request. And at that point, if we do, we can make it what we feel the community really needs it to be, if it's different from what the original grant guidelines were.
Or how are you going to market this to get citizens in that want to learn how to use a computer?
So we currently have programs in place that we have partnered with Stanley Community College to do, and they've been really well attended. We've done like internet computer basics, then that to the next level, more intermediate use. We have just done a workshop on scam awareness with URE Bank that is bringing people in and showing them, if you don't know how to use this technology, et cetera, and it's been incredibly popular. We have a lot of requests for people who come in daily and say, I need to pay my power bill online. They say that I've got to do it and set up an account. I don't know how to do that. I don't even have an email address. Where do I even start? And so that takes our CERC staff off the front desk and has to, they have to sit down with someone for 45 minutes or so. Then we're shorthanded, or we're limited with our plans for additional programming that we had on the calendar, or we're having to deny service and say, we don't have anybody to help you right this minute. Could you come back? But if your power bill's due tomorrow, we want to help. So it's just sort of created a little bit of a balance. So I think the need is there. We've seen it. And when we have done these workshops in partnership with the community college, they've been popular.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you. Yes.
Sarah, I'd be one, if something happens to my wife, I'd be one sitting in the dark with no cable because I don't do anything online.
We can help you.
But I would like to make a motion to approve the budget amendment 2025-29 and the associated project ordinance to appropriate the grant funds as requested and authorize the creation of one full and one part-time digital navigator position.
Thank you.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second, Commissioner Hatley. Any other discussion? Okay, let's vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Be interested to find out how many people come and learn to do this.
I'll keep you updated.
Thank you. Okay, item number 4 is submission of the 2025 reevaluation schedule of values. Presenter is Clinton Swearingen, our tax administrator.
Well, good evening, Chairman Lawhon, members of the board. I'm glad to see you tonight. I'm here to present the 2025 schedule of values. I want to speak on the schedules for just a few minutes, and then I'm going to let our real property supervisor / revaluation director, Charles Johnson, speak a little bit about the reval itself. And then I'll end with the adoption timeline for these schedule of values. These schedules are required by law by 105-317, and they must be reviewed and approved before the tax administrator can complete the 2025 revaluation. They have to be approved by December 31st of 2024. The schedules must be sufficiently detailed to enable those making appraisals to adhere to them when they appraise real property. The statutory process is designed to allow for public review and comment prior to the actual application of the schedules being set in stone and approved by the commissioners. So what do the tables consist of? Well, they consist of numerous valuations and different tables and ranges that are essentially driven by our CAMA system, which is our tax software that we use every day. And the valuation standards are there to ensure uniformity and equity so that a C-grade house in Norwood is starting at the same base rate as a C-grade house in Locust or a C-grade house in Richfield. There are rules there to ensure uniformity and equity also. Many of the tables are set in ranges to allow flexibility. One side does not always fit all, especially when you're appraising property. And the tables were going to be in your agenda packets tonight, but they're about 350 pages long. And that shut down Minute Track, and Tyler had to put an insert in your packets tonight for it. But the schedule of values, which is the main schedule, is online at the tax administration website. It got put on there last Tuesday, I think, online. And the PUV, which is the present use value schedule of values, we adopt the North Carolina Department of Revenue's use schedule based off of their advisory board. They release it each year for anybody, any county conducting a revaluation that year. So there's actually two schedules, the main schedule of values and the PUV schedule that's online. Hard copies of this for people who can't reach it online are going to be placed starting tomorrow in the tax administration office, in central administration, in the local libraries, and also they'll be online. So anybody that would like to look at the schedules will be able to. And there's a long process for adopting the schedules, which we'll get to shortly, but I want to let Charlie speak for just a moment.
Welcome, Charlie.
Hey, good evening.
We think.
Yeah. Well, thank you for letting me show up this evening. I just want to let you know that the tax office, we do a reappraisal every 4 years, and we began the 2025 reappraisal shortly after the last one ended. So we began in August of 2021. We have 41,500 parcels in the county, and we spent between 4 permanent appraisers. We looked at all those parcels physically, and we took photographs of every improved structure we could get to legally. And we did, well, we know nowadays, quite honestly, there's been some issues in Mecklenburg County as far as going on people's property. So we've kind of backed off a little bit on that. So we completed the field reviews of the 41,500 parcels in November of 2023. We listed permits. Year before last, we had 2,300 permits. Last year, we had 2,200 permits. And we began office final reviews. They started in April of this year, and we hope to get those completed by January of 2025. That's where we take the new tables and the schedule of value, and we look at our notes when we were out in the field, and we look at our photographs, and we try to come up with a value. We hope to mail out change of value notices to the taxpayers in March of 2025. And like I say, we always like to wait. We will be testing during that period to see, as far as the economy, how the year ended. Because, at this point, we have to somewhat estimate, but, we will have it firmed up. We'll know exactly what interest rates will be doing and how the market will be reacting by January. And that's why there's a little bit of a delay between mailing out notices between January 1st and when, we actually do it in, let's say, end of March. So.
So in your agenda packet tonight is the adoption timeline. So I know me or Charlie, neither one are too much to look at, but we're going to be here the next few meetings to get these schedules adopted. Tonight, October 7th, the schedules are simply put out there for not only the commissioners but for the public to look at. There's no action required tonight at all whatsoever. This week we'll run the public hearing, letting all the citizens know that the schedules are available for public inspection. The next meeting that you have, October 21st, we'll be here again to have a public hearing. Once again, nothing's being adopted, nothing's being done, it's just a public hearing. And then the next commissioners meeting on the November 4th, we'll ask you to adopt those schedules. And then the Machinery Act states that we have to advertise once a week for 4 weeks following the adoption to give taxpayers a chance to appeal those values to the Property Tax Commission in Raleigh if for some reason they don't agree with it. The Property Tax Commission is usually always backed up, and there's usually many cases to be heard. But anytime a schedule of values is appealed to the Property Tax Commission, they will immediately move that to the front of the line to be heard, because we're working with a deadline of January 1st, 2025 to get this stuff approved and done, and they realize that. So that's all we have tonight. We'll be happy to answer any questions that y'all have.
Any questions?
All right,
I
thank you,
believe
Board.
so. Thank y'all for
Thank you.
coming. Look forward to seeing you again. I think. Okay. Number 5, jail expansion project, design and pre-construction contract options. Presenter, Mr. Andy Lucas, County Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And actually here tonight is the sheriff and Blair Bordeaux from Bordeaux Construction, as well as Todd Davis and his team from Mosley Architects, in case you have specific questions about the proposal. At the board's September 3rd work session, Bordeaux Construction and Mosley Architects were present and discussed the jail expansion options and capital costs. Additionally, our staff provided an operational cost overview so you could see not only what the cost of construction would be, but what would the associated debt service on an annual basis would be, plus the operational cost to operate that facility, staff, contracted services, electricity, water, sewer, all those things contemplated. After a period of discussion, the board directed staff to bring back the cost options to design either option A, which was a 78-bed expansion, and a copy of that is or a schematic of that is actually in your packet. That would be a 78-bed expansion to the newer part of the jail that would come back towards 2nd Street, down in where there's a parking lot today. Or option D, which is a 78-bed expansion, which basically encompasses option A, plus the removal of the old jail facility that was, and construction of offices, medical, booking, laundry, and visitation area to accommodate a larger jail moving forward, and 16 additional beds on that old jail site. So those were the two options the board discussed during that, or were more favorable towards during that discussion that you had in your work session on September 3rd. In your packet this evening, you have a design and pre-construction proposal from Bordeaux, which essentially is, a lot of that is Mosley's cost for the design. You can see the cost for option A, which is just the 78 beds, is roughly 1.1 million. And then the design cost and pre-construction for concept D, which is the 78 beds, the removal of the older jail facility, and then the reconstruction or design to ultimately reconstruct offices, visitation area, medical, laundry, and 16 additional beds in that facility, and that is 2.5 million. And so there would also be construction administration, but those costs and fees wouldn't be passed along until the board actually went forward with a construction contract or amended the current design, or what will be a design build contract with Bordeaux for the construction of that of the whatever space it is determined that you're going to build. And so I'll be happy to answer any questions, and Blair and Todd and their teams are here, as well as the sheriff, to answer any questions that you may have regarding this project. And so I'll stop there and make ourselves available to you for questions and answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions for county manager or the associates with Bordeaux?
I would like to, I know we had discussed something about maybe remodeling the old portion of the jail, but nobody ever got any figures on that. Is that something that has been looked into?
I think if Blair and Todd may be able to address remodeling the old portion of the jail, they would probably be the best to. They're general contractors. They've seen facilities of this nature and could give you. I think we talked about this at the last meeting, and I think their thought process was that you're better off tearing that building down than the cost to remodel would be more expensive than tearing it down and starting over. But I'll let Blair and Todd address that. I think they're better positioned than I am. They're contractors.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Blair Bordeaux, President of Bordeaux Construction. Todd Davis with Mosley Architects. That's probably best a design question as far as the feasibility of bringing the old jail up to code. So, Todd, you want to kind of just talk about that?
Yeah, probably the quick answer is, could the old 1940 section be renovated? Answer is yes. What you have to do, though, the state's going to make you bring it up to current code, which is going to mean the sprinkler system's going to have to be implemented, the smoke purge, all of that you don't have now. That you can't have exposed conduit, so that's going to be a challenge to get that whole sprinkler system put in. It's going to be required by the current standards. They pretty much, anything that you touch in that old section, outside of just cosmetic changes, they're going to make you bring it up to the current code. And so that's been, changes have been made to the International Building Code and everything else since that building was built.
Yeah, I understand. Anytime you do that, you're going to have to bring everything up to code, the current code. But is it, I mean, I would like to see some figures if you could throw some out. I mean, I'm not hard and fast, but I just can't believe that it's going to cost more to remodel that old section than it would be to completely tear it down and rebuild it.
You've got, the majority of that has been decommissioned by the state already. So I think there's 35 beds that's being used now, is that right?
37.
37?
Sure.
37.
Out of the total that they're allowing to be used now.
37 out of what we would used to.
Isn't it 66?
What did it used to be?
I can't remember the total numbers, but the problem, like Mr. Davis said, the state has come in
and their codes and their policies have been updated. And a lot of the cells now don't allow ambient light, as an example. If they can't see outside light, then they're decommissioned. We can't use those. And the bulk of those cells that are in the new, or in the old jail, there is no such. There's no source of outside light.
That's the main problem, is no source of outside light there?
Well, you've got that. A lot of the piping that is in there, that cast iron is so old that goes through the walls that's inside. It's just crumbling. And that's where all of our water leaks are coming from, and you can't.
And I know that can be replaced too, but what I mean, if you built a new jail there where that was at, isn't there gonna be a problem with light also?
That's for them to design. They can answer that better. I mean,
Yeah, in order to attack what you've got there now to allow for the natural light requirement, you would have to, you'd have to cut windows in certain areas. But building new, that would be part of that design, because that's been code now for a while. Probably since the 90s when you did the last edition. That was code then. It just wasn't at the time that was built.
So there is access to light, it just never was put in to start with, you're saying?
It was not designed
It's
to allow.
it's underground, isn't it? Part of it?
Some of it is, yeah.
So it'd be amazing to get light
And they
to that
used to
next-
let you do what's called solar tubes, to where it's basically mirrors and tubes. They don't even allow that anymore, where you basically piped natural light in with mirrors and through the roof.
So what I'm hearing, a new jail couldn't even go back there if you tore the old one down.
No, it could. It was all in the way it's designed, designing it from day one to allow natural light to come in. You could. We think it would cost more to try to bring that up to current code, get natural light, and still get the number of beds. Because there's going to be a certain amount of beds you're probably not even going to be able to gain back from doing that.
Chris Wood, who is the state jail inspector, he's the director. His recommendation is you decommission it and build new. It will cost more, and that's all he's done his entire
My
life.
question is, can you build back in the same spot
Yes.
and still have the light?
They say yes.
And I'll say, just from my understanding, what they would do is you'd sort of reverse what's there now. Now you have jail cells sort of on the bottom floor, that's the basement. What they're contemplating is that's where you would put your services such as laundry and medical and those things, and then offices, and then up on the street level, essentially coming off the courthouse or the back parking lot of the courthouse would be where the jail, that would be where the new jail cells would be constructed. So at that point, you have natural light in the design of the facility, similar to what you have in the newer section of the jail. My understanding. I think there's a concept in your packet.
That's correct. If you look on the concept, it's the one that's option D, and it's got the 16-bed expansions on the second floor. One other significant change in jail code since when the jail was built is the need for recreation yards on the outside. That would be extremely costly to add on. So, if I had to off the cuff, you would be spending 40 or 50% more on the dollar to renovate than you would to build new beds and bring the jail up to code. So it could be done, but it would be significantly at a reduced value, if that makes sense.
If you look at that same figure too, where we show the rec yards, that is a window wall that separates that from the actual housing units. That's the means of the natural light coming in. So it's a secure area. And when we say rec yards, it's not like you're going to ride by and be able to see. From the outside, it looks like just another addition to the jail. So it's walled. It's just open air around a band around the top of it. But that allows all that natural light to come in to feed to those 16 beds in that day room.
I'd like to just say, for transparency for the people that are here and the people that are watching, we had a meeting a month ago, a public meeting before this meeting, and we met with your organizations. And, what we were presented with was Plan A, B, and C. And then we talked about some things because C was sort of all the bells and whistles, and it was a lot. It was a lot of money, too. And it would be, of course, pie in the sky. So then we talked amongst ourselves, and we wanted to see, we all agreed that we wanted to see a Plan D. And so you've gone back and you've constructed a Plan D, which was a compromise of some things. And so that's what we're looking at right now. But I think that people need to understand the great need to do something. Plan A would basically stop the bleed, right? I mean, we would be able to put people there and only offer how many more beds for Plan A than we have right now?
Plan A is 78-bed expansion.
It's a 78-bed expansion, but right now, we're also, some months are more than others, we send our inmates out to other counties, and we're having to pay with our tax dollars for them to stay there.
We just had to move 15.
Okay, and it's how much a day?
Average is $75 a person per day.
And then when they have court dates,
gotta
you have to
bring
take a deputy, you got to have an officer go pick them up and bring them back, and then take them all, if they could be in the mountains or wherever it is that they are.
Right.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, I think we spent roughly $500,000 last year, Andy.
A little over 500,000, about I think it was closer to 535, 540
Yeah.
last year. Year before that, it was in the 200,000, 220 range, and
Yeah.
year before that was similar in that 220 to 230 range.
If we stay with kind of what Sheriff has said, we'll be back around the $450,000, $500,000 range. If those amount that you just took out stay out next year.
Oh, we were back to normal.
We were till this week.
We hadn't housed any inmates out of county. Let me get to the microphone, I'm sorry. We hadn't housed any inmates out of county in well over 6 months,
Yeah,
probably.
about 6.5, almost 7.
So, the latter part of last fiscal year, March, April, May, June, we weren't housing any inmates out of county. The first part of this fiscal year, July, August, September, we didn't house any inmates out of county. And in October has been the first time that we've had to house inmates out of county since the probably March, late March of 2024. So last fiscal year. So this will be the first time we've incurred any cost for housing any inmates out of county in at least 6 months. And we budget for that. Obviously, we budgeted more this year because based on past experience, to be able to help cover that. Now, if we end up having to house inmates for an extended period of time late into the fiscal year, yeah, we'll go over that budget and we'll be closer to that 500,000 number that you've stated. Hopefully, that won't be the case. Hopefully, we'll be able to move some cases through and we'll be able to keep the population more consistent with what the number of housing beds we have, but there's no guarantee.
And Andy, what's our current capacity?
Our current capacity is yes, sir.
125, and then when we reach 135, per the jail inspector, we have to move a minimum of 10. So he's basically allowing us to stay at our max.
Thank you.
And so you moved 15?
Yes, sir.
When?
Wait a minute.
It was last week. It was, you called me.
Thursday or Friday.
Yeah.
Did crime increase or the court slow down?
Can't answer that.
It's a lot.
We've all had these meetings.
You take a fifth?
Sir?
You taking the fifth?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the issue is we don't have a whole lot of control over, obviously, if crimes occur, a sheriff has to respond and has to, in the city of Albemarle and all the other local PDs, and then there's that piece. Then there's the piece of whether they get bail or are able to bail or get out and they stay there, and then there's the piece of the court system and how quickly they move through the court system. So, and only parts of that we can control.
Correct.
There are a lot of parts we can't control. And so, but our taxpayers are burdened with the cost of housing these inmates and providing food and medical and other types of things. And so, but we don't control how quickly the court system moves. That's a state-funded function, and so that really, that's sort of the frustrating piece of it is we only control parts of our ability, and with respect to this this jail issue and the number of beds we have is that the judges and the other folks that are involved in the criminal justice system aren't our employees, and there's limited accountability there from the Board of County Commissioners.
I've talked to the current state inspector that Jeff referenced to, and he said he would work with us and keep our number where it is, as long as we're working toward a solution toward the old jail. And so that's what we're doing.
I want to make sure we understand the numbers also.
Yes, sir.
Jeff, you said $75 an inmate per day, correct?
Correct.
That are shipped to another facility. If we didn't ship them, we still have cost. We have about $45 or $50 a day. Am I thinking right?
No, when we move them, we're paying $75 a day for another county to house them and feed them and provide medical treatment and all those things. And so we're paying $75.
But if we could keep them,
oh yeah,
it's still incurring cost, is what I'm saying.
Correct. The net is not $75.
Thank you. That's what I was getting at.
Yes.
Other questions? Any What's the pleasure of the board?
I can say that the design's not going to affect you at all. I mean, depending on which design, either one of these designs, whether you move forward with option A design or option D design, you have sufficient funds in your general fund balance to pay the cost of the design. The question will become, once this design's done and we get a guaranteed maximum price from Blair or from Bordeaux Construction to do that, and we have to amend that contract, that's when that's where that piece of what's the impact going to be on the taxpayers. We've shared some of that with you in that work session. I mean, it's not cheap. I mean, if you're looking at in option A, you're looking at about a $15 million facility. And then you've got $1.2 million in operating cost a year. So you're looking at about $1 million in debt service plus $1 million, or a little over $1 million in operating costs. You're talking about an additional $2 million hit to your budget, once that's done. And you have to start paying that debt service, and you have to hire those employees, and you have to operate. 1 penny on our tax rate is roughly $650,000, somewhere in that range, 650 to 7. I don't have that committed, but so you start doing the math. You're looking at, I think it was 3.6 cents was option A, if I remember right.
That was the cheapest one, too.
That was the cheapest one. That's 78 beds.
For clarification, Plan A is also part of Plan D. Plan A is the 78 expansion, and Plan D is the addition. So what we had talked about was if we went ahead with the 78-bed expansion, we would have the plan, it would already be drawn up for D, for in the future, if we didn't have the money now, we're setting the next board up 10 years down the road or whenever to demolish the old building and then to build back, and then you have that. Is that correct? Am I right?
It is correct in that you would be incurring the cost to design that. Now, I think that Blair and Todd would likely say to you that if you did do option D and to design that and spent the $2.5 million today, you obviously, and you wanted to only wanted to construct option A, not D, not the full thing. And that would, you could get option A, you could do a guaranteed maximum price on that. It's conceivable that you would have to come back in and spend some amount of money because the code for jails will evolve over time. And so they're going to design it to the code today. And so if 4 years from now there's a new code and something changes, they'd have to go back into that design and relook at that. Now, is it going to cost $700,000 to do that? No. But you would likely incur some amount of money. I can't speak to that. I mean, I think it's minimal in the big scheme of things. I mean, probably less than 10% of your cost, but it'd probably be in that probably 7 to 15% of your cost to go back in and look at that, depending on how many code changes there are. And I'll defer to you all in terms of whether or not that's accurate.
Yeah, it's kind of unknown. I do know they just did the jail standards. That takes about 4 years to go through the bureaucratic system to get those changed. So I don't see those change. It just depends on when you decide to move forward with the second part of that option. If you do it in, 2 to 3 years, could there be a code change in the IBC code? Sure, we don't know that. But as far as jail standards, probably not. So it would be a minimum, if anything. It all just depends on what codes change. And if I knew the answer to that, we could design towards those code changes now. But that's just the unknown.
Right now, as of this morning, we're back to 127.
How many do you have in the whole part?
I'd have to look at the numbers the way he's got it, but generally, you're housing 40 to 45
In the old part?
in the old part. Yes, sir. And now
So
that's
if we
men
do,
and women.
so if we just do the 78, we're basically, well, roughly, we're going to lose half that immediately when we tear down the old part to bring them in.
And here's another thing. When you build, let's say you do the 78, you got an A block and a B block. When you do that, A block can fill the men, but part of the men that are in the old jail, I'm going to be overcrowded already because I got to find a place to put the females. The females are going to take up a whole block by themselves, which, correct me if I'm wrong, is what, be 30-some beds? So right there, you're going to use half of it for your females. I don't know what I'm going to do with the rest of my males. I'm going to have to house them out. That's my problem.
During the construction.
Correct. Well, even once the construction, if you just build option A, I'm still behind the 8 ball. I'm still gonna have to house men outside or women outside.
That assumes the state makes you decommissions the rest of the beds.
That is correct.
We don't know, that's an unknown
That's
as
an
to how
unknown.
long those old jail beds will be before they're gonna
Correct.
decommission them. If you build the 78 beds, you can have those 78 beds plus what we have today, until they decommission the ones in the old jail. And we don't have a crystal ball to know when that is. Now, they've asserted that the lifespan of that facility is dwindling, but they haven't given us, I don't have a crystal ball to tell you that if you build this new jail, you're gonna have to decommission the old ones. The hope is that you'd be able to maintain those for a few years so that you could begin to pay the debt service on the 78 and then take action on the next part.
Part of my problem with the old jail, Todd can't find parts. If something breaks, he can't find parts anymore. That's a huge part of our problem. So I'm just stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Comments?
I don't have any comments, but I'll make a motion that we move forward with the design cost and get a guaranteed cost for option D and go from there.
I'll second it.
Any other comments? Got a motion and a second that we go with option D.
Now, at this point, it would just be design, and then you would get a guaranteed maximum price. Then you can make decisions on if you want to just do A for now, or you want to do, so you'll have flexibility. Really, all you're committing to.
And the cost is too.
What you're,
2.5.
just for just clarification, what you're committing to tonight, correct me if I'm wrong, Commissioner King, is you're only committing to the $2.5 million to design and do the pre-con for the whole thing. We can make that work. Now, it's going to tap into it's going to leave, but we don't, it's not like we got to go borrow money for that.
2.5, $2,503,212. Is that correct? What's on your sheet?
It is.
It's what's on the sheet. Versus if you go with concept A, it's $1,089,212.
That's correct. That's correct.
Page 30.
Yeah, that's it.
Page 30, that's correct.
So that's your motion?
That's my motion.
Second.
Any other discussion before we vote? All in favor of going with design D, which is a full design pre-construction for 78-bed housing unit demolition of existing jail, construction 2 new story wings with mezzanines. That's what we're voting on. Yeah, gotta have the light. All in favor, please say, no, all in favor, please raise your right hand. Okay. 5, 4 opposed, 2, motion carries. Design concept D. Thank you.
Get something for you, and then we'll work with the attorney. Thank you.
I might as well just stand
Stay
here.
over there.
Number 6, Sheriff's Office contract, Town of Oakboro Law Enforcement Agreement. Sheriff?
I guess my question is, do y'all have any questions more than what we discussed earlier?
And when he says more than what we discussed earlier, we were in an open session.
Correct.
With the press there.
Yes.
And lots of questions. Comments from the commission board?
Yeah, I've always got something to say with a comment. It's just a comment, not a question, but I've told you, Sheriff, that I'm reluctant to go any kind of a long-term contract with anyone. Since the town of Oakboro's had a police department since day one of some sort, and I think the people in Oakboro, my feeling is, from what I understand from them, would rather keep the police department, and I can understand that. I also understand that they also need police protection, which you can give them for now. I just don't want to get stuck in a position where it's going to be lifetime. And, I think you can provide good protection. I got no problem with that. It's just that I feel like that maybe everything hadn't been transparent. I don't know. I don't want to know. I'm going to stay out of. I don't want to get involved in the town's matters anyway, and I feel like we've been drug into it. But at this point in time, I think there's some review of the contract needs to be done, and it's bad timing. Whichever way it goes, it looks bad for some people. So I'm going to prefer to hold off on making any decisions for a while, but I'll leave that up to my fellow commissioners here.
I've got it.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Shudo.
Yes, I have no doubt the sheriff can do fantastic protection out there and everything. But experience on the board, I agree with a point that Commissioner Crump brought up. Once this contract has come out that y'all decided on, I would love for that to go back to the Oakboro Town Council and have them air that out down at that council before it comes back to us. Because that way, they're the folks that are living there. They're the folks that have the questions, and they're the folks that it needs to be kind of sold on. And like I said, I have no doubt the sheriff would do a wonderful job. But, maybe not. I think they're a 4 or 5 year contract and stuff. And so anyway, I just don't feel like we need to rush, at least to go back and have people air it out down there during the regular meeting when it's on the agenda. And the folks can come and speak and stuff. So that was a good point that I hadn't thought about that. And I know in the past we've done things without thinking it needs to go to somebody before it comes back to us. So this is where I'm at on it.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I just would like to say one other thing that was a source of concern for me, and the sheriff was able to clarify that in the contract, I wasn't sure if it was written if the equipment for this temporary time, because it is written as a 5-year contract, but at any point can they apply to, take that year to hire? So if they decided immediately they wanted to take that year to hire, they're set up for a 5-year contract, but in the next year or that interim, they can be hiring for those positions. And I do believe that, the safety of the people in Oakboro is utmost importance. And I do appreciate the Sheriff's Department doing all that you're doing. Thank you for that. But would those 8 vehicles, or however many vehicles it would be, convey back to the town of Oakboro after that's over? And yes, it would, but the language is not completely clear in that contract. So we talked about let's making that abundantly clear in that contract, and just some tweaking of the language like that. So that's something that the attorneys could do. But I think that just, like Commissioner Shudo just said, once that is ironed out, taking it back to the town and then coming back to us is the proper way to do that.
Other comments? The only comment I want to make is that we've got to have law enforcement protection throughout our county. And I would hope that the protection I get where I live would be the same if I lived in Oakboro. And I know the sheriff and the sheriff's department probably having to do some things right now that they're not normally doing. But I'm concerned to make sure our citizens in the Oakboro district receive the same protection. And I hope, and I know you, Sheriff, you would want that. You live in Oakboro, or you live on the outskirts of Oakboro.
I live 1 mile from the city limit sign. Oakboro's my home.
Yeah, but, Oakboro's a great community, and I want whatever's decided, whenever it's decided, because if it were decided tonight that, yeah, we're gonna do this contract, your protection should be the same, and it's not gonna increase immediately. Because my understanding is what you're trying to do is hire new people to go out there. And I hate to say it, but the folks that live in Oakboro, y'all don't have but two police officers right now. And to hire the police officers you need, it's going to take a while. It's not the commissioner's authority to decide whether Oakboro has a police department or not. That's your town board and the citizens that support the town board to make those decisions. It's not our decision. Our decision will be whether or not we make action on this contract or not. But please provide as good protection to me as you would to folks in Oakboro. What's the pleasure of the board?
I guess I make a motion that we just hold off on this until, I don't know if making the motion, what's the proper way, till after the Oakboro Town Council reviews the contract and has a public hearing and votes on it again. Or approves the contract, because they should approve it publicly before we take a look at it.
And with it going back, and I'm going to ask a question to you, Commissioner Shuto. Going back, we need our county manager and county attorney to make sure that the contract meets. After Oakboro were to discuss it, bring it back to us, we still have the right to make additions or corrections to it. So I guess you're asking that it be tabled.
Was that a confusing motion I made, or should I just say we should table it?
I think, go ahead, Jenny.
I think Commissioner Shudo's motion was fine as stated. I don't know if you want to possibly add a date, or possibly a goal for Oakboro to follow back up with you all, just a suggestion, but I think your motion was okay as drafted, it just may be possibly open.
I would just amend that motion to say by the end of the year, just saying that, because you never know if I would have put it within, till after their next meeting, issues may come up at that next meeting that they may have to go to their next meeting, so I would just like to say by the end of the year.
Because I think our current contract's through December.
It is. It's through the end of the year.
We definitely want to do something before that contract expires.
And that doesn't mean we're not gonna take action on it until the end of the year, but that, in case things come up when you guys have a public meeting and stuff.
I mean, the quicker they get it back to us would be in their favor.
Commissioner Crump, you okay with?
I'll second it.
Okay. All right, questions?
My question would be, Andy, are you going to include the conversations we had, that changes we'd like to make in the contract that you wrote down earlier?
Yeah, and I just want to make sure I've captured everything, if you don't mind. I had a first right of refusal for Oakboro to rehire the officers. I had language that we need to be more explicit and state that the equipment provided to us by Oakboro would revert to Oakboro if the contract was terminated by either party. And I have noted that we need to provide clarification in the sort of intro to the contract around Oakboro's intention to start a new police department or reconstitute or rebuild its police department, and to eliminate the word replace, because we're not replacing, we're just providing interim, we're really just providing interim law enforcement services to them. So just putting some wording around that to make it not make it seem like we're replacing their police department, that the town of Oakboro's goal is to reconstitute and to rebuild its police department. Those were the three things I noted. If there's other things the board would like to see in a revised contract, I'd be more than happy to take that down, so that Jenny and I can work with their board to get those before they take it back to their board for action and public comment.
That's good. I just like for them to start on it immediately, because then the longer this goes on, the harder it will be to build a force back.
Understood.
Any other comments?
Mr. Chairman, I think the sheriff, I don't know, took some bad heat a while ago about, again, just because you don't see them don't mean they're not there. I was in Oakboro Sunday afternoon, 1:30, and I met a sheriff's deputy coming through downtown. It's my goal, and I think it's all of our goals, for Oakboro to have their own PD. We don't want to be in the law enforcement business in Oakboro. I think that's an Oakboro thing. Again, hiring people is going to take time. We don't know why all the officers left, and that's, I don't know. But they chose to leave. I mean, they wasn't kicked out. But I go back to Oakboro, the town of Oakboro, the citizens of Oakboro. You guys deserve good quality police protection, and that's something that we want to give you. Thank you, sir.
Let's vote on the motion that Peter made to table it until Oakboro has a chance to look at it and make some changes, approve it or deny it, and we'll look at it before the end of the year. Second by Commissioner Crump. All in favor, please raise your hand. Looks like 6-4. Against, raise your hand. 1 against. Okay. Motion carries 6-1. North Carolina Association of County Commissioners Legislative Goal Conference Delegate. Presenter Andy Lucas, County Manager.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. Every 2 years, the association convenes a legislative goals conference for counties to come together and put together a legislative agenda that they prioritize the different goals that they're going to advocate for at the General Assembly, with the General Assembly's biennium starting again in January. So the board's asked to designate one voting delegate to represent us at that conference. It'll be held in Raleigh at the Marriott Crabtree, November 14th and 15th of 2024. And so just bringing it to the board to ask if there's anyone that wants to volunteer to be the delegate for Stanley County.
Mr. County Manager, I'll volunteer to do that.
Very good.
And give me those dates one more time.
November 14th and 15th. And I know that Tyler will be more than happy to work with you to or get your arrangements or hotel and everything else squared away for you.
14th, 15th.
Of
okay.
November 2024.
Okay.
And that's at the Marriott Crabtree Valley Hotel.
Raleigh.
But Tyler will work with you to get that squared away.
Okay. Just make sure there's blankets in there. Yeah, gas logs. Putting it on my calendar right now, Andy,
You're good.
so I don't forget it.
I'm just going to shut this computer down while I'm up here.
I've got it. Got it. All right. I believe everyone's had plenty of time to review the consent agenda.
I make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
We have a first and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries 7-0. All right. Closing comments. Patty?
All right. I really probably should have asked this question earlier, but in the consent agenda, there's an item here for the elections budget amendment. We just agreed to approve of the additional funding that it will cost to remove Robert Kennedy from the ballot. So I'm assuming that this is something that every commission across the state is having to do, or
Let me make a statement. I attended a meeting recently on the North Carolina Insurance Group that I serve on.
Mhm.
The Kevin Leonard, who's the director for the association, wants to know from each county, and I need to get you or somebody, find out from Kimberly what the cost was for our county, and they're talking about reimbursing those costs.
That
They're-
would be great.
They're talking about going to the legislature.
That's that budget amendment's the cost.
12,000 for us increase, just to reprint those ballots.
Is that
Yeah.
the total?
That's the total, 12,000.
Did you get that from
It's one of the last pages on here, yeah.
in the consent?
For us.
That's the budget amendment is associated with the cost to do
Okay,
that.
so that's the exact cost.
Yeah.
Okay, I will pass that information along to Kevin Leonard, who will in hopes get the money from the state.
That's good.
Yeah, I would imagine most counties, Commissioner Crump, are having to take some sort of budget action now. I worked in Mecklenburg County, and we had a contingency budget that was at that time, and this was 20 years ago when I worked there. That time was in the several $100,000, and so it was conceivable you could go in there and grab some of that, so you didn't have to come and do a budget amendment. There was enough flexibility for staff to be able to do budget transfers from that contingency if it didn't hit a dollar threshold. So it's conceivable that some larger jurisdictions that have a big contingency budget and their budget ordinance allows their manager and staff to move those funds around if it doesn't hit a certain dollar threshold, that they're not having to do a budget amendment. But every I would imagine every county's having to move some money around to cover this cost. I mean, it's not, I would say, wouldn't think that they budgeted for this because they wouldn't have had any idea that was going to happen.
But he will be removed from every ballot in every county?
That
Or
was
is
that was a motion, I believe, that came down from the Superior, or from
That's
the
what I thought,
Superior
they had
Court.
overturned
Yeah,
it.
yeah,
Okay.
yes.
Good.
So we didn't take this action unilaterally. I mean, Kim's doing what she's been told she has to do.
We pretty much have to do that.
Yeah, it wasn't something. It was not. It's not
Yeah.
like Kim said, "I'm going to do this." I mean, or the local board
Like,
of
we had
elections.
said no, we would
this
have
was
still had
this
to
was
take
ordered by the courts to
That's
do
what,
this.
yeah, that's what I was,
Yeah.
yeah.
I thought it was. I was just wanted to see it that clearly. Okay, so I'll just finish my final comments. All I want to say is I'm so proud of Stanley County. You know, you have probably been as engrossed as I am on social media, and with your churches and communities and your organizations, your workplaces. Everybody's bringing in or taking trips over to the mountains. And I'm sure you agree that this is tough. But I love this county. And it's great to see God's people come together.
Commissioner Hatley. Vice Chairman Barbie.
Yeah, I just want to reiterate that my heart goes out to all the people in western North Carolina and other states affected by the hurricane. I've got friends that I worked with and some distant family that had been affected by this, and I know what they're going through, and believe me, we don't have a clue of all the problems that they've got. So pray for them and hope things go good for them.
Commissioner Eford.
Thanks, sir. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. I have my pink tie on, my pink socks. Cancer affects us all, everybody in this room, whether it be a family member, a friend, a coworker. It affects us all. Pray for those who are going through that right now. It's tough. Even in the western part of the county, of all the things that are on top of what these folks are going through, I mean, I like Patty, I just can't imagine. I just can't imagine. I've been watching some videos and stuff, but it's the simple things we take for granted, the day-to-day things, just going in and flipping on a light switch. But, I mean, they were houses floating down the rivers. Just can't imagine. And I agree with Patty. The folks in Stanley County have stepped up, donating stuff. Matter of fact, I think they about wiped out Walmart there in Albemarle and Locust, donating stuff. It's amazing what people do. Again, if you're waiting on the government to do a lot of stuff, sometimes they run a little slow. That's the good thing about government and the bad thing about government. But, you know, pray for each other. Pray for all those folks. And the folks in Florida, I mean, they've been hit 3 times and are getting ready to get hit again with Hurricane Milton. So pray for those folks every day, and don't forget them. It's not going to be a month, 2 months, 3 months. It's going to be years for those folks to recover. So, but thank you, and again, Oakboro, I want the best protection that you can get. I don't want to neglect anyone, I have thought more about this decision than. Well, I ain't gonna say anything I've ever thought about, but I struggled. I struggled. I struggled. But I think it's the right thing to do. We want to get it right. You got one opportunity to get it right. That's what we want to do. Thanks, sir.
Thank you. Commissioner King.
I just want to thank Oakboro Commissioners for coming out tonight, and Mayor, appreciate you guys coming out, and I don't envy you and your decisions that you have to make, and no matter what you make, they're going to be mad about it. Somebody's going to be mad, and so I just want you to know that we recognize Oakboro as tax-paying citizens in this county, and we appreciate everybody out there, and thank you guys for the job that y'all do, and it's not going to be easy for the next couple months, I'm sure, but I know you guys will get through it and figure it out. So if we can help in any way, we really want to help, but we just want, like Commissioner Eford said, we want to do it right, and sometimes we have to slow down to speed up. So thank you guys for coming out and giving us the opportunity to hear y'all's side of things that are going on. Sarah, thank you so much for going after that free money for us. That means a lot, and anytime we get some free money for the county, it's a great thing. So thank you for all your hard work, and I guess I'll see you Wednesday, and good luck with the upcoming baby.
Okay. Commissioner Shudo.
Yeah, just about these hurricanes. I don't know if people just, I know you think it's devastating, and it is devastating, but it goes beyond to where these downtowns, imagine if Millingport, that little spot in the road, was wiped out, where they have the rescue, the volunteer fire departments. There's a lot of volunteer fire departments up there that are gone. Their trucks are gone, their buildings are gone. That's the center, those places are the center of where people go to for help. Their communications are gone. And life is not a 30-minute sitcom or a 3-episode Netflix series. This is going to be long-term ramifications. And I think about the folks who basically are going to have to find different jobs somewhere else in a different part of the state to survive. If it came through downtown Albemarle and got rid of Vac and Dash when I owned it, I can't imagine I couldn't be able to pay people or find a way to, they just have to find new jobs and relocate. It's just very sad, but we're resilient and we will survive, and that'll eventually be rebuilt. And I think about Florida. I grew up in Florida and St. Petersburg and that area. That's always been spared from hurricanes, and they still have water from the last one. And this one's heading toward Sebring, where I grew up, and this Sebring's on the east side of the path, which is the worst side of it there. And I think they said the winds are at 150 miles an hour with rain, and that place is saturated, so I know the terrain. And the roads don't really get washed out where you can fix them, but man, it floods. It floods down there because they're on a low level. So let's prayers for all of them, and gracious for Stanley County and the residents for what they've done to help. And just to let you know, this is the impact and how it impacts us in this area. We're doing a run, putting together a run with the Rowan County, Salisbury Rowan Runners, and their money's going to the YMCA's up in Rowan County, because right now they have residents of the mountains who are living in their gymnasiums and staying at their places because they don't have a place to stay out there. At least they get fed and they get showers and stuff like that. So the money's going to there. And I got good news for you guys. This is the last time I'm going to say anything about the schools at the public meeting here.
I thought you were going to tell us it was your last meeting.
Well, the good news is the good news is there's just 3 more to go after this. But just want to respond. We keep going back and forth with this, and just want to reiterate a couple things to get some facts straight, because facts do matter, and information does matter. Because they did a response, a public, what do you call it, press release or something on this. And one thing they keep saying, they keep giving us presentations about what they need, and we keep asking them for more information. So if you were to go to a bank to ask for funding, and the bank asks you, we need a different study and more information, why would you keep going back to the bank with not the information without having the information they requested? And it's very frustrating, because I could tell you, the 4 of us, County Manager Lucas, Commissioner Barbie, and Lawhon, we've worked with them for like 3 years on this, and it has gotten frustrated. I'm not trying to throw them under the bus, but I guess I probably am with what my comments are. We're not asking for another facility study. We're asking for a comprehensive plan, which is different than a facility study. A facility study, yes, it's included in that, and that needs to get done. Because if you went to the bank with information from a study you did 10 years ago and 20 years ago, they would laugh you out of the bank. You need current data, current information. And we've been trying to get that. We wanted to fund it with them. And just to give you an example, what we're talking about, we got this sample from the Cleveland school system. It's what they did, a comprehensive study. They paid an independent person to do it. I don't even remember what the cost was for this. I don't even.
It was in the $350,000 range.
And we were willing to split 50-50 with the Board of Education.
And that's Cleveland County.
That's Cleveland County. That's Cleveland County. That wasn't us. That was Cleveland County. And I've heard them at school board meetings saying that, well, that doesn't give us any recommendations. That's just a bunch of baloney. It is. And the first thing is, you said guiding principles, and this is the guiding principles for that study. And here's a couple things in here. They asked for recommendations. They gave them guidelines. They said, for example, for Cleveland schools, the optimum elementary school enrollment should be from 450 to 600 students. The optimum middle school enrollment for them, they want 800 to 900 students, and the optional high school, 1,000, 1,500 students. So that's what some of the parameters were, and there's also some other ones there. And they have told us, I'll just use this for an example, they have said that they got no recommendations. It didn't show any recommendations. This one here, for the CREST attendance zone recommendations, no recommendations for consolidation, okay, independent study. Bear with me, folks. This one here, if the existing Kings Mountain becomes a new elementary school, then the students at the closing schools, for example, East and West, so they did give recommendations on the consolidate schools. And we have had questions, and part of this is we can't just keep putting up Band-Aids. We've been doing that for years. And I'm going to use Oakboro as an example, and please don't hate me for I'm just using it as an example, questions we have. I think everyone agrees that that building is in terrible, terrible condition. They even said so in their application. But here's the questions we have. We just spent, I don't know how many millions of dollars committed to build 200 more seats at Indy Elementary School, which is 7 miles away from Oakboro. We have Ridgecrest sitting there, which is 9 miles away from Oakboro, and they have, 300 seats if that was open. So why would you spend $42 million to rebuild a school that's going to house 750 elementary school students in Oakboro? And to top that is when we had our joint meeting, we asked the question, and I'll be quick, well, probably not, but. Yes, I know. But when we were at the joint meeting and they were talking about this, the joint full meeting, and we asked them, what are you going to do about Baden, Richfield, and Norwood? And they said, we'll get to that later. The whole thing's a puzzle. And we're not against building a new elementary school in Oakboro or any of these other ones, but it has to fit in the puzzle. You can't just put one school here and put a Band-Aid, because anytime, the last example, then I'm going to shut up. If not, you call me down, okay, Mr. Lawhorn? No, a good example is in the plan that they've submitted was that you consolidate North Stanley and Albemarle. Well, and that's the second plan. They changed that. So North Stanley and Albemarle, and then you move the middle school to the high school, and then you move East Albemarle to the middle school. Okay, that middle school holds 680 students. East Albemarle has 275 students. Okay, where's that part of the puzzle? What do you do with that extra 300 seats at Albemarle Middle School? What do you do with those extra 400 seats at Albemarle High School, because that holds 700 kids and you have 300 going into the middle school? That's just questions we all had, and you have to fit the puzzle. It's a big puzzle. I wanted to fit it. And my time is short here, not tonight because I was talking, but I got 3 more meetings done. There's nothing much I can do to help, and it's just been frustrating and stuff like that. Thank you for letting me have expanded time and to rant. Oh, that's okay. But I just wanted to set the record clear. We are not talking about just a facility study. We are talking about a master plan to tell what happens when you do this. How does that impact this, and this? And I can tell you what, from working with these folks, we all wanted to help. But we also are very judicious about how the tax dollars are being spent. Oh, yeah. So, sorry. Thank you. Yeah, we that $1 million for a new Board of Education office, that came as a shock.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Thank you. I'm reporting from January through September 2024, new home permits, and it's just new home permits. We're down that period of time, 53 houses from January through September. we had a total of 410, but like I say, we're down 53 for the same period. The average permit is $222,203 for the month of, or for the months January through September, which is up a little bit, but it's still not up enough to cover the services that the county provides based on the value, tax value of houses. Tax value of houses to break even on the services that the county provides, I believe is $355,000. Glad houses are being built, but I wish the value of those houses were higher than $222,000. That's all I have. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. First, second, third, fourth. All in favor, let's leave. Amen.